Summer 2026 is coming sooner than you think. Stick with me through the end of this video and I'll give you 3 steps on how to start to look leaner and get healthier in just a few months. Hey friends, welcome back to Dave's Digest. My name's David and I have a passion for teaching you how to live a healthier, happier, and more fulfilled life. Today we're talking about the basics, the introduction of building a base fitness. We're talking about how to start getting the ball rolling. This isn't advanced. This is 101. I like to call this the bronze messaging. This is not silver. This is not gold. They did a study on Olympic medalists and found that the bronze are some of the most happy people because they got on the podium. They almost didn't make it. Silver's mad they didn't get gold. Gold's happy, but they've hit the pinnacle. There's no other climb to hit. Bronze is where we want to be. This is where we want to start. Today's bronze, the basics. This is normal people stuff. This isn't Instagram fitness influencer stuff. This is not bodybuilding stuff. This is the basics. Here are the 3 steps we're going to take to starting to get lean by summer. Number 1 is setting the right goals, priorities, and mindset. Okay, that's the number 1 thing. Number 2 is to let the snowball start rolling. I got an acronym for LET. And then number 3 is going to be to stay consistent and disciplined for some period of time to see if this stuff is working. Let's start with step number 1. This is setting the right goals, getting the right priorities, and getting your mind right. Okay, I've got 6 separate thoughts on this. Number 1, we should be prioritizing losing fat versus losing weight. Let me tell you the difference. Your body is made up of 2 different types of components. You've got fat, which most people want to lose, and then you've got lean mass, bones, water, muscles, organs. We don't want to lose any of that. You could lose 10 pounds of water and you're not going to look better. You're not going to feel better. It's not doing anything. So let's first reframe the proper goal, which most people have, which is to lose fat. Thought number 2 for this is that getting lean and being healthy sometimes aren't exactly equal. You can get lean eating McDonald's. I'm not going to recommend that, but getting lean, losing fat just means that you're in a caloric deficit. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're loading up on vegetables and fruits and quote unquote healthy foods. Getting lean, losing fat ultimately boils down to eating less calories than you burn, which we'll get into, but just my second thought on that. All right, thought number 3 is who we're comparing ourselves to. I think you should compare yourself to yourself. We're talking about getting you to be the best you that you can be. Maybe you're very gifted genetically and you think about drinking water and all of a sudden you lose a bunch of weight. Maybe you're not. Probably not. Most of us aren't genetically gifted. Don't compare yourself to the fitness Instagram influencer and say, I wish I could look like that. That's not you. Let's make you the best you can be. All right, number 4 is to prioritize the 80% that's going to get us closer to our goals and forget about all the 20%. Most things online, on Instagram, on YouTube, they're all talking about the hacks that the people who are saying these things already have the basics in the bag. They already are doing the 80%, and then they want to get to the peptides and the gym splits and zone 2 training. We're not talking about any of that stuff today. We're talking about the 80% that's going to get us the closest to our goals with the minimal effort. Remember, this is bronze. Okay, thought number 5 on this first step of getting our minds right is you need to get real with yourself on what sacrifices you're willing to make changes in your life. Anything worth doing is going to require sacrifice and it's going to be difficult. You got to change some habits and you got to realize that prioritizing your health is going to come at the expense of something else, but I promise it's worth it. All right, number 6 on setting goals and priorities and getting our mind right is just realizing that the little things will compound, okay? It's kind of like saving and investing. You put some savings away in an index fund and it compounds. Same thing with your daily habits. Work on the little things, work on those 80% and let them accumulate. Let's get in good, healthy habits and let them snowball. All right, step number 2. Speaking of snowballs, this is to let the snowball start to roll. I've got an acronym, LET, learn, execute, and track, okay? There's gonna be some learning, all right? Don't turn the video off. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of learning, okay? All right, number 1 for learn is going to be the supply and demand of our bodies. Metabolism 101. Sounds a lot like economics. Supply, demand, okay? You've got a supply into your body of calories or energy, which is going to be anything that you consume. You got demand, which is everything that your body needs energy for, which we'll break down. But the point is that getting lean, losing fat is all about understanding the supply-demand imbalance. If you have too much supply, i.e. too many calories, your body will take those calories and it will store them away for a rainy day, AKA fat. If you are at a demand imbalance where you are spending more energy than you consume, your body will have to pull energy from somewhere else. It's going to pull it from your fat stores. It's like budgeting 101. Most of the times you want to spend less than you make. In this example, we're talking about to get lean, we're going to have to start spending more than we make so we can start pulling from some of those fat stores. Okay, so on learning about metabolism 101, realize that your meat sack of a body only cares about keeping you alive. It wants to maintain homeostasis. It likes you right where you are. It really doesn't want you to gain a bunch of weight and doesn't want you to lose a bunch of weight. It just wants you to stay stable, homeostasis. Your body doesn't care if you wake up happy. Your body cares if you wake up. So you got to realize that your brain, in many cases, is trying to derail your rationale that you want to be leaner, because in your mind, when you lose body fat, you're losing the ability to survive the winter apocalypse that's never coming, the famine that's never coming. But that's the way that your body is designed to keep you alive, is to take those extra calories. In the past, we used to have in the spring and summer when fruit was plentiful and animals were roaming around, you got to eat a lot of food and your body would store excess calories for the winter when food wasn't as plentiful. All right, so on the supply-demand imbalance, then we got the demand side. And I think this is really important that you understand that your body has 4 main types of using energy. The number one is called your basal metabolic rate. This is the amount of calories that you're gonna burn in a coma, sleeping. This is just keeping the lights on in your body, keeping your heart beating, keeping your lungs pumping. Basic metabolic rate, I don't know, like 60 or 70% of your calories are with you not doing anything. Number 2 would be what's called NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, easy for you to say. This is walking around, taking the stairs, getting up out of a chair, wiggling your feet like I tend to do. Then you have the thermic effect of food. That's when you consume food, your body does need calories to break that food down. It's kind of a circular reference. And then you have your EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the least important step of how you burn calories, is what you do at the gym. You've heard it said, you can't outwork a bad diet. That's because on the supply-demand imbalance, what you do at the gym is not burning enough calories to move that supply-demand imbalance in your favor to get leaner. All right, so going back to the banking example, you got your checking account, and let's say you're earning a paycheck and you're spending less than you earn. You're gonna take some of that money and move it to a savings account. That's like your body moving your extra calories to fat. And then in a specific month, if you are spending more than you made that month, then you might have to pull from savings. It's the same way your body works. Okay, it's very simple. All right, the other thing we need to start learning about is the different types of exercise and what they're really good for. Make sure you've got the basics here. Number 1 would be strength training or resistance training. This is primarily for strength, either building strength or maintaining strength. Then you got cardiovascular exercise. This is primarily for your heart. I know you think running is going to go make you lean, but I got news for you. It's primarily for heart health, which is good. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the most efficient way to help you get lean, especially if you hate it. Okay, so we got strength and resistance, we got cardio. The third I'm going to call other. This would be training for dynamic or explosive movement or mobility or flexibility. These are ways of exercising that, again, are targeted primarily at some of those ancillary benefits. And then the 4th type of exercise I would call is fun. That means you're going out and you're playing sand volleyball, or you're playing ultimate frisbee in the park with your friends. These are great, just social ways to exercise, good for mental health if you enjoy it. So we got strength and resistance, cardio, other mobility, flexibility type work, and then we've got the fun stuff. So the third piece of the learning aspect of our step 2 is learning about sleep and recovery. Super important. Sleep, obviously, very important. But let me just say this is the most free. If you could bottle up the advantages that sleep has in a pill, it would sell off the charts. Prioritize your sleep. Number 2 is recovery. Recovery really depends upon how hard you're going to go in the gym. We'll get there, but recovery is super important, especially over 40 like me. We can't do the things that we used to do when we were 20. So as we start to dial in our supply-demand imbalance on the calorie side and make our exercise efficient, then we also need to make sure and prioritize sleep and recovery. All right, so in terms of letting the snowball run, we're talking about learn, execute, track. Talked about learn. Here's what I'm gonna do to execute. These are the basics of what we need to be doing for nutrition, exercise, sleep, recovery. Nutrition, let me make this super simple. We're going to focus again on the 80-20. Let's make 80% of our foods whole food, single ingredient foods. We're sticking to the outsides of the grocery store. Start there. Lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, dairy to a certain extent. We're talking about the outsides, the refrigerated items, the things that would go bad on your counter after 4 days is what we want to prioritize. If something can sit in your shelf for a year, probably not going to help you reach your goals. So focus on the 80%. One of the rules of thumb is if it had a mom or a dad, it grew in a tree or a plant, or it grew underground, you're good to go. All right, next on nutrition is to prioritize water and black coffee. Let's cut the easy sugary drinks. Let's cut the easy creamer in your coffee. Let's just start to move the needle. If you do want something in your coffee, you choose a heavy whipping cream with this like heavy fat but low sugar. Let's start to cut out those sugary drinks. Iced tea at lunch is fine, but put the Splenda packet in. Don't put the sugar in. All right, number 2 on execution would be on exercise. What are we gonna do for exercise? And it's really hard to answer that question on a YouTube video because a lot of it depends upon how much time you're willing to invest in exercise. If you told me I've got 30 minutes a week, or you say I'm willing to give you 3 hours a week, I would tell you different things. But again, talking bronze, this is easy mode. I'm gonna encourage you to just find more ways to move around more throughout the day. These are getting your steps. And for a specific step count, I'd say minimum 7,500 steps a day is gonna start moving you towards your goals. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. When you go to the grocery store, park in the furthest parking spot you can and walk in. Little things like that. Take more water breaks throughout the day to get up and go grab water. Find ways to move around more. Easy button, bronze mode. We are ideally starting to talk about strength training on here. Maybe this is blurring into silver. I think it's really important. I really enjoy strength training. But if you just said, I just want the bare minimum, then we're talking about prioritizing movement, especially if we're talking about getting lean and not prioritizing building muscle or maintaining muscle. And the third part of execution is focusing on sleep and recovery. As I mentioned, on the recovery side, it depends upon how often you and how hard you're going in the gym. Most people would tell you to take at least 1 rest day a week, maybe 2, where you're not doing much. This is bronze, so you're not doing much already. You don't need a rest day. And then on sleep, my general recommendation would be the earlier you can get to bed, the better. So between 9 and 10 would be ideal. Cold, dark room, and wake up around the same time every morning. That's it. That's all you need to do. All right, so we're starting to let that snowball roll, learn, execute, track. We're on number 3, track. Here's what we're gonna do. This is critically important that we start right now on the right way to track. Remember I said we're gonna compare ourselves to ourselves. Well, how in the world do we do that? We have to set baselines. When we get to the silver podium spot, we're gonna talk about some more complex tracking methods, but for bronze, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take before pictures, and I know that can be kind of daunting to most people, but that's the reason you need to do it. You need to be able to watch your progress. So take before pictures, front, back, side to side, in the mirror, have a friend take it, whatever you need to do, get a before picture. Now we're gonna start tracking 6 other metrics. Weight, daily. I want you to get in the habit of weighing yourself daily. This is not to hyper focus on weight, but it's important to see the weekly average of your weight. And you can only do that by weighing every day, every other day. Okay, so jump on the scale, get the weight, throw it into your iPhone, throw it into a quick tracker. I just tell Siri on there, hey, here's how much I weigh, and it logs it into my health data. That's the easiest way to do it. The other thing we're gonna track is our exercise regimen. So what did you do for exercise during the week? Write that down, super simple. Don't get overcomplicated. If you are going to the gym, maybe we're not starting with reps and sets and all this kind of stuff, just like a general understanding of what you did. I like to set on my watch what my exercise type is, and at least it gives me a log of it on my phone. So I remember if I did strength training or if I did cardio or if I had a rest day, etc. The other thing we're gonna track is our sleep. So we're gonna write it down or take a note in your phone. But here's what I wanna know. I wanna know what time you went to bed, and I wanna know what time you woke up. And that leads us into the next 2 things that we're gonna track, which is energy levels and just generally how our body feels. Again, I think this is critically important that we track these things and set a baseline. So for example, let's say last night I went to bed at 9, let's say I woke up at 5, and maybe in the evening I jot down a scale of 1 to 10, how was my energy levels throughout the day? Let's say it was a 7. And then it's how do I feel? Maybe my knee hurt or my elbow hurt or whatever. Let's give yourself a grade. This is the only way we're gonna be able to look back and compare ourselves to ourselves is setting a baseline. So we got pictures, weight, exercise, sleep, energy, and how we feel. Let's just do those again. Bronze is just the beginning steps. All right, step number 3, this is the last step. So remember, we set our goals, our priorities, our mindset, and then we let the snowball start to roll. And number 3 is we got to get consistent. We have to give enough time for our body to start making changes. You did not get to whatever your weight or whatever your body composition is overnight, and it's not going to fall off overnight either. So you got to have some discipline and some motivation to keep you on track. And so let's just pretend that this first stage, we're going to start to do these things for 3 weeks. One of the examples I want to provide, or an analogy I want to provide, which my wife would turn the video off at this point because I'm going to talk about water boiling, which is like the most boring thing I could possibly think about, but stay with me. Pretend you put water in a pot and you put it on the stove and you turn the heat up and you're watching it, and like you're watching water boil. It's going from 100 degrees to 150 degrees to 200 degrees. Well, guess what? Nothing happened to the water. You're sitting there watching the water, nothing's happening. You know that well, maybe you're checking the burner, like, is the burner on? I don't know. Do I need to cover it? It's like super boring if you're trying to make macaroni and the water's not boiling. But the point is, as it gets to 212 degrees, it starts to boil. You can't get to 212 overnight. It has to go from 100 to 150 to 200 up to 212. This is like your body. At the beginning, you're going to be warming up. You're going to be moving the needle, but you might not see a lot of progress early on. You have to believe that these are the steps that are going to work and give yourself a chance to hit the boiling point. All right, the last part about staying consistent that I want to just give you some encouragement is like, I love this book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. It's a business book, but he really lays out that you can have 2 mindsets. You can be stuck on a gap mindset, which is the difference between what you have and what you want, or you can have a gain mindset, which is at least appreciating the fact that you have come from somewhere and that you have more or something else now that you didn't have before, and at least acknowledging that we've all come a long way, and don't just always be wrapped up in where you want to go and how long it's going to take to get there. So gap and the gain, let's focus on the gain, which is why we're setting a baseline and measuring certain things so we can go back and look at how far we've come. All right, so staying consistent, we're going to do this for 3 weeks. Let's do this for 3 weeks. I know if you're watching this video right now, you're coming up on Thanksgiving. It's going to be a little bit challenging, but let's just start to notice. Let's set our goals, get our priorities right, set our mindset. Let's start to let the snowball roll, and let's get consistent for 3 weeks. Okay, so in closing, I hope that you've learned something from this video. If you did learn something from this video, do me a favor, click like, subscribe if you want more content like this. I would greatly appreciate it. Small channel, trying to grow, trying to give you some help that will move you on your journey to living happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. Also, if you have any specific questions, if you want me to cover a topic in more detail, happy to do that. Drop it in the comments below. And if you need another video to watch, check out my 5 M's video on how to live a more fulfilling life. I'm taking notes from my 4-year-old. He wanted me to end the video in a specific way. So for my son, peace, love, and joy.